This is the Eclectic Discussion Podcast.
Well, alright. Yeah. You know, ever since
What's up, everybody? It's the Eclectic Discussion Podcast, and I'm here with 12 Cal.
What up? What's good, man?
I am great. How are you feeling?
Feeling good, man. Feeling good. It is the end of the week, and we're on here pod, man. So I can't complain at all.
All right. Now, listen, Mr. Kyle, everyone knows that your handle on social media platforms and podcast platforms is 12 Kyle, and we all know that the 12 comes from your love of Tom Brady and Jim Kelly. So, I have a question for you. And I'm only asking you. I'm asking you your opinion, your personal opinion. We're not factoring in nothing that nobody else has ever said or nobody thought. If you right now had to pick the greatest NFL player of all time, who would you say?
I would probably say Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice. Love it. Very popular answer. Arguably the greatest wide receiver of all time. There's no reason to argue that he's not the greatest football player or NFL player of all time. What are your reasons for making that selection?
Just like you said, he's the greatest receiver of all time. I've never seen anybody play that position and dominate and train and really be a successful, especially coming out of where he came from at Mississippi Valley State. As a Giants fan, I was pissed off that the Giants didn't draft him. They drafted George Adams, who went on to be a bum. He was a running back from Kentucky. And they passed on Jerry Rice, and Jerry Rice went, I think, 2 picks later to the 49ers. But I just think just watching him and watching his career, I think the way that he approached the game and the way that he dominated the game, no matter what was thrown at him, obviously I'm a little bit biased because I played receiver in high school and college. And Little League. So I'm a little biased when it comes to picking receivers, but if I had to pick one player and say that they were the greatest, I would pick him, and those would be a couple of reasons why.
Well, that's crazy. I thought even in football, you still played shortstop. But anyway, for a long time, if someone asked me that question, I would have said Jerry Rice. But these days, in the last few years, maybe last decade or so, I have a new answer, and this is just me. Everyone, we're asking each other's opinions. His opinion was Jerry Rice. I can't argue with it. I like it, but I personally think, and I posted this, I think that there is an argument for Deion Sanders as the greatest NFL player of all time.
Okay. That's an interesting pick. Do tell.
I know. But, just like spending time with my thoughts and just thinking things through, how people come up with their GOAT or their favorites. Like, Deion is one of the only players, if not the only, players who could change the game by himself. He can score on an interception. He can force a team just to not throw to his side, which changes their whole game plan.
Facts.
He can score on a punt return. He can score on a kick return. He can line up at wide receiver and catch a touchdown. He can line up at wide receiver and draw all the coverage so the other side catches a touchdown. I mean, everyone, it's a team sport, so the rest of the team has something to do with it. If he's running back a punt or a kick, somebody has to block. If he's catching a touchdown, someone had to throw it. If he, so I get that, but it's very few NFL players that has all of these things that they can do that's going for him. I mean, when he's arguably the greatest shutdown corner of all time. And so even if you want to argue, let's say he's definitely top 5.
Oh, no question.
Of course. Then he's probably top 5 returner of all time.
Right.
Probably top 5 kickoff returner, probably top 5 punt returner all time. And it's just, when you put all these things together, it's like, then if he's not, what is your criteria for the greatest player? Because, I mean, it's so many different positions on the field, so many different variables that goes in that what makes a person successful. It's just that for him, to me, he requires the least amount of help to be great at what he does on the field. So it's like Jerry Rice, I get it. But, maybe they don't throw to him that day.
Mm-hmm.
And, Taylor and Rathman and Roger Craig got busy. It's just that I don't know. It's just I think it's a strong argument. Also, not that this has anything to do with it. He's the only person in the world, period, to hit a home run in Major League Baseball and get a touchdown in the NFL in the same week.
Right. Man, listen.
The same week. So I don't know.
You make a great case. It's hard to argue that he's not. And
it sounds weird when you say it, though.
Not, to me, not really, because I'm gonna tell you why. Because he was the definition of a shutdown corner, and what I mean by that, particularly for those of you listening who are not really familiar with the term, but not really seen it. It's one thing to have a cornerback like some of the guys that are playing now, like a Jalen Ramsey or whatever. Quarterbacks, maybe they don't get a lot of yards when they throw at them, to the receivers on that side or whoever they're covering. Or maybe they get a few yards and maybe this particular cornerback, like a Jalen Ramsey, for example, is good at holding receivers, to 50 yards or less or something like that. We saw a guy by the name of Darryl Green who had what they call world-class speed. He played for the Washington team. And, he was a great corner in that era. But there's a noticeable difference between him and a guy like Deion, wherein Deion, he wasn't just a shutdown corner. You couldn't throw to his side of the field, and you just mentioned that. And I want to illustrate that point because teams were scared to throw on Deion, whatever side of the field he was on. They didn't want to throw on that side because there was a chance if the ball got tipped, if the ball wasn't on a line, if it wasn't thrown on a rope, there was a possibility that he was going to pick it off. So even
and not only was he going to pick it off, it was probably 6.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. Because trust me, you're not catching Deion, especially in the open field. So it could be something as simple as a team throwing a screen to his side. Like Deion, literally, if he was on the right side of the field, you would see play after play after play, pass plays, going to the middle of the field and the left part of the field. They weren't going because nobody wanted to throw to his side. And he's a guy that we saw go up against the guy that I mentioned, Jerry Rice, and shut him down. I mean, like 2 GOATs out there just going at it. And no trash talk, no nothing. Deion never talk trash. And not that it matters, but he was flashy, but he came to play and he played every day. Now the knock on Deion was that he wasn't a hitter. Yeah, but
he didn't need to.
He wasn't a hitter, but he said, "Hey, I don't get paid to tackle. I get paid to get picks and get in that end zone." And like you said, greatest punt returner, greatest kickoff returner. Hell, he lined up a wide receiver in the Super Bowl and caught a pass. I mean, so man, you definitely one of the greatest athletes that we've ever seen. Period.
Yeah.
Because he would have probably dominated baseball had he been able to devote half of his time, but he spent more time playing football. So man, I don't think that that's a stretch at all.
Yeah,
He's in that conversation for real.
it's just that I was thinking about it, and when people talk about, oh no, this is the greatest football player, normally it's a quarterback, and if it's not a quarterback, it's Jerry Rice. And almost no one, I've never met anyone that says Deion Sanders. And it was just at some point I was thinking about it, I'm like, man, that guy did. It's like, even like on the video game, when you, it's like, wait a minute, I can put him at wide receiver. I'm getting busy. And I mean, he brought a lot to the league. That he brought that high step.
Oh, no question.
And the little listen, man. It's just, so it was just that was just a question that I thought I'd ask. I thought I'd throw out people that are listening. Who do you have as the greatest NFL player of all time? Not your favorite, because all things considered, Deion Sanders isn't my favorite NFL player. It's just that I'm just looking at things and I'm like, I think that's an argument.
So who's your favorite NFL player of all time?
It's
Ickey Woods.
I have it split on offense and defense. So offense is Barry Sanders, and defense is Derek Thomas.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, Derek Thomas. So, cause, and this is another podcast, but I understand people these days watch, McCaffrey, or even a little bit earlier, they watch Adrian Peterson get busy. Guy's incredible. But it's just, if you were of age and got to watch Barry Sanders, when Barry Sanders was doing Barry Sanders things,
Listen.
it was nothing like, he was like watching a video game. And it was real. And it was like, he led the league in negative plays, but they were the most exciting negative plays you would ever see in your life. You would rather watch him run for -3 yards than some people 20-yard touchdown. But when he did get his off, they were the most exciting touchdown runs. And those were runs. He almost never caught the ball out of the backfield. He almost never had a dope offensive line. He almost never had a dope quarterback.
Never.
And he did all of this, and it was incredible. So, but I couldn't narrow it down. I'm always offense to defense.
Okay.
What about you? Who's your favorite?
Favorite offensive player, I'd probably say my guy, man, was Dan Marino growing up. That was like my favorite quarterback to watch. Rice is probably a close second. Favorite defensive player, I'm biased. My uncle, Harry Carson. And
It's
probably
Carl Banks.
and probably close second is the guy that played a couple of feet away from him named Lawrence Taylor. So yeah, but like to your point, some people will say LT was the greatest.
Listen, I'm willing to be on that train, even though Derek Thomas is my favorite. Lawrence Taylor was a fucking problem.
He literally you can't even say he commanded a double team. Like, they had to account for him every single play because you didn't know if he was coming off that edge. You didn't know if he was dropping off in the coverage. You didn't know if he was coming on a delayed blitz. He was everywhere, and he had a motor, and he was, just special, man.
Well, and we're gonna get out of here, so I'm sorry everybody that we're off on this tangent, but these types of players are the reason I don't put Peyton Manning and Tom Brady in the highest regard that everyone else does.
Okay.
And it doesn't sound like it's a correlation, but it is, and this is what it is. The reason why I put Montana and Marino higher than a Manning and Brady. Listen, I know they got the rings, and
Yeah,
it's
first thing people gonna say.
It's incredible, but Montana, Marino, Elway, Moon, they had to line up weekly against Lawrence Taylor, Derek Thomas, Reggie White. They had to throw against a Deion Sanders, Ronnie Lott, Darryl Green. They had legit greatest players to ever play football on defense against them just about in whatever city that they played. And Tom Brady never had, come on, man. He's not going up against he's not going against a killer on the line or a killer in the middle of the field with another killer at cornerback or a killer at safety. He's never had to do that. He's always like, oh, let me drop. That's Champ Bailey. Oh, it's fine. He's never had to worry about that, and so that's what it's who they played against, and people like to put that against Jordan. Like, well, he played against a bunch of doctors, and I'm like, look. You want to go ahead, call Gary Payton with hand checking a doctor if you want to. Go ahead, man. Because see, my counter argument is always hand check was legal and beat your ass if you get into the paint was legal.
Yeah, I mean that's what I always say. Anytime people have that type of discussion, the first thing I ask is, what rules are we playing by? Are we playing by today's rules? Just like, I don't know if you saw the comments that Ja Morant made the other day about he would bust Jordan's ass if he played against Jordan. Now, Ja Morant is a phenomenal talent. Ja Morant's probably 6'3", 6'4", maybe, but he might be about 175 pounds. In the hand check era, you're not busting Michael Jordan's ass if you weigh 170 pounds. And what I was trying to explain to my son Cameron was like, not only that, but even if you're playing by today's rules, if you put Ja Morant against Michael Jordan's, he can go to the line and not get. He can go to the rim and not get mauled. Prime Michael Jordan is putting up 50 on Ja Morant, and that's no diss to Ja Morant, but Ja Morant, he doesn't have the context of how basketball was played in the 80s and 90s. And maybe he should look that up. But I appreciate the honesty and him being brash and brave or whatever like that. But the reality is you're not. And just for the record, if you did cook Jordan, because that was the quote he said he would have cooked Jordan. If you did cook Jordan, I promise you, when you saw him again, it wasn't gonna be pretty.
Yeah, if you did, you was only gonna do it once.
Yeah, you was only gonna do it once. Ask LeBradford Smith. LeBradford Smith scored 35 points against Michael Jordan, and the next they had a home and home. So they played in, I think, DC one. They played in Chicago. He got 35. They played the next night in DC, and Jordan had 35 in the first half.
Yeah. Yeah. It's different, man. It's just different. Look, the true dominant players had the league trying to stop them. Look, there was Jordan rules, and there was a such thing as hack-a-shack.
Thanks.
There's no rules for the Greek Freak and LeBron and Steph. There's no rules. I guess let them get this shit out because we can't really play any hard defense anyway.
No, the rule is let them team up together.
Oh, well, also that. It's just that, it's like they had to come, they would formulate plans to say, like, all right, dude coming in town tomorrow. What are we going to do? Mm-hmm. What? All right, well, if he get in the paint, clobber him. Okay, right. He still had 50. What do we do?
Undercut him. That's all you can do.
Yeah, like kill him. Get a knife.
Get him mad. Talk about his mama. Talk about his wife. Hopefully, he gets thrown out of the game.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that was your best bet.
But no, it's just different, and this is why you can't compare eras. You can't compare things, and And this is also why LeBron is not a top 5 player all the time. I'm just trying to tell people. So
We might need to end on that.
yeah, you can't be the greatest and in your run have somebody else have a dynasty. No other great did that. No other great did it.
Ouch.
When Jordan was doing this shit, it was Jordan's dynasty. When Magic was doing this shit, it was the Lakers dynasty. When Bird was doing this shit, it was the Celtics dynasty. If LeBron's doing this shit. Oh, look, Steph. Steph won about 3. I'm just look. That's all I got, man. You don't let somebody else. Hey. Anyway, sorry for the tangent. Direct all of your negative comments to me. I'll fuck you. So,
right.
In the meantime, in between time, we out.
Yeah.